Lewis Hamilton will start on pole position for the Saudi Arabian GP after title rival Max Verstappen let the chance to head the grid slip by hitting the wall on the final corner of qualifying. Verstappen, the 8-point championship leader, will now start from third behind an all-Mercedes front row of Hamilton and Bottas for Sunday's race, the penultimate round of an incredible season. At the end of the tense and dramatic qualifying hour around the relentlessly fast Jeddah Street circuit, Verstappen was absolutely flying on his final attempt and was 0.2 of a second up on Hamilton, who had just taken provisional pole through the first two sectors, but then disaster struck, locking his car's front left brake into the turn 27 final turn. Verstappen was slightly out of shape into the left-hander, and his right rear wheel tagged the barrier with significant force. It is of course terrible, so the disappointing Verstappen afterwards of an error that could have significant ramifications on the outcome of the season. In general, it was a good qualifying. I know pace was there and I showed it at the end. I didn't really understand what happened, but I locked up. I still tried to keep the car on track and kept going, but it clipped the rear and had to stop. Sky's Martin Brundle said he locked the front wheel and then got frustrated. Verstappen has an outside chance to close out his maiden title on Sunday if he outscores Hamilton by 18 points, but the prospect of the required difficult race for his Mercedes rival has been further lessened by Hamilton heading an all-Mercedes front row. Verstappen now has a nervy wait to discover whether the impact with the barriers damaged any core elements of his car, such as the gearbox, which could trigger a gear penalty. That was such a shame. It was looking like lap of the year, said Christian Horner. Let's hope the gearbox isn't damaged and we can see what he can do tomorrow. In a further complication for Red Bull, Sergio Perez was beaten to fourth by Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly was next up in sixth. Strong weekend for both AlphaTauris with Yuki Tsunoda in eighth. Lando Norris was the only McLaren in the top 10 in seventh. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz was a surprise driver in Q2, struggling with handling. The Spaniard was lucky not to make significant contact with the barriers on his first run, but he couldn't get a lap in the end, and that consigned him to P15 on the grid. Drama and then drama again. This is the F1 season that keeps giving. The focus ahead of the qualifying had been on Hamilton, the 7-time champion, being summoned to the stewards after first practice for 2 potential infringements concerning yellow flags and blocking, cleared over the first incident just before Q1 and then reprimanded for the second during the session once the stewards' verdict were in. The focus exclusively turned back to the battle on track with an impressively fast wall-line Jeddah circuit, which drivers had raved about all weekend, and lapping with average speeds of 153 miles per hour. The nature of the track had led to most considering a venue that Mercedes might dominate at, but it didn't seem that way, with Red Bull seemingly happy on softer tyres compared to their championship rivals. In Q3, Mercedes were out first with a plan of longer running, but Hamilton made a mistake on his first flying lap. His second delivered the fastest time of the session at that point, but it was nowhere near Verstappen's own early benchmark, and the Dutchman seemed delivered. The Red Bull was 0.4 of a second faster and seemingly on his way to the pole, but Hamilton wasn't done yet, and crucially, as it would turn out, the Mercedes driver's final attempt saw him a tenth inside Verstappen's time. His Dutch rival was of course set to beat that before turn 27. We were quick enough, but for some reason P3, particularly qualifying, I was lacking pace and particularly struggling with the tyres, said Hamilton, who embraced Bottas after qualifying after the Finn had also beaten Verstappen. For us to get 1-2, I'm really proud of Valtteri and everyone on the team. Those guys were just so fast. They were obviously fixed something from their setup and they were rapid today, he said. And before I go, let me run you through the final classification. Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas. Yeah, to be honest, they just didn't have great pace today, but just performing when it matters, such a huge boost. Max Verstappen will be gutted, and you do kind of wonder how costly that will be for him, because Mercedes' long run looked really impressive yesterday. And then Charles Leclerc in fourth, incredible job from him to get ahead above Sergio Perez. He just wasn't performing. I mean, Perez really had to do better with the car that Red Bull had today. Gasly once again performing in sixth, and great to see Tsunoda up there in eighth. But I know there are some doubts about his race pace, so it'll be interesting to see if AlphaTauri have another race like Qatar. But Lando in seventh, that's a decent enough job from him, not much more than McLaren could have done. Ocon and Giovinazzi, it looked like they did well to get into Q3, especially Giovinazzi, really solid job from him. Ricciardo will be disappointing to miss out. Raikkonen up there in 12th. The Alfa Romeos had a pretty solid day. And then you've got Alonso in 13th. A bit disappointing with where Ocon is. Russell in 14th. That's solid enough qualifying. And for Carlos Sainz, he'll be really frustrated because he was right up there in Q1. So not to get a lap in will be extremely disappointing. Latifi in 16th is pretty decent to get above the Aston Martins. But yeah, the Aston Martins are just absolutely nowhere this weekend. Just dreadful. really. And then of course you got the 2 Hasses. But anyway guys, that's it for the video. Thanks very much for remembering to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to comments down below. Follow on Twitter, link in the description made for daily F1 news, and subscribe to the channel, and that'll be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.